website, and in week 2, we saw how you can perform application performance monitoring with our APM Insight agent. In week 3, that is today, we will be discussing how to deliver a seamless customer experience with the help of our digital experience monitoring suite. So let me walk you through the agenda for today's session. First, we'll be looking at how you can measure the website performance and changes in real time. And then we'll be looking at how you can proactively identify and resolve potential user impacting issues through synthetic monitoring. In part 3, we'll be looking at how you can analyze the user behavior patterns to gain insights into front-end performance. And lastly, we'll be looking at how you can enhance the web page performance to safeguard your brand reputation. So I'd also like to inform you that we have a team of panelists who are experts in Applications Manager and are willing to answer all your questions. So should you have any during the course of this session, kindly jot it down in the same chat box and they'll answer all your questions. So part 1, measure website performance and changes in real time. So why are we discussing this? In the digital era, most enterprises use a web platform to reach potential customers and showcase the products or solutions that they offer. Websites have become extremely popular as a medium of establishing a brand image, and they contribute to making a major share of revenue. Well-planned websites can capture the attention of the target audience, increasing the probability of them turning into valuable paying customers. Whether you deliver a smooth user experience for your customers or not depends on the performance of your website. So according to an article published in browserstack.com, 47% of the consumers expect a web page to load in 2 seconds or less. 40% of people abandon a website that takes more than 3 seconds to load, and 1 second delay in page response time can result in a 7% reduction in conversions. If your website is unavailable or has poor responsiveness, end users won't be able to engage with your website's pages or wouldn't want to wait for them to load, which can have a significant impact on your business's reputation. Therefore, to ensure the effectiveness of your site, avoid any performance hiccups, and create a seamless digital experience for users, website performance monitoring is essential. Not only does it provide insight into your website's availability, but also it gives you an understanding of critical metrics of your website so that you can work on improving its reliability and making it work optimally. So the first step in a digital experience is the interaction that the user has with the website. So when the user tries to access it, it must be available. Website downtime and slowness are the major causes of concern for businesses. Frequent downtimes and slowness can make you lose your site reliability among loyal customers, as well as create a bad first impression on your first-time users. So what causes website downtimes and slowness? First one, we have scheduled maintenance. A scheduled maintenance is a temporary period in which a site or an app is made offline for updates, backups, or maintenance. Then we have data center problems or server errors. If there's a data center problem or a server error, the request from the user may not even reach the server. Bugs in code. These bugs may cause errors and prevent the site from not loading or might cause slow loading. High traffic. If too many people are trying to access the website at the same time, it may not be able to handle the load. Hacking attempts. If hackers are trying to pull any suspicious activities on your sites, it can cause the website to slow down or go down. And finally, we have SSL certificate expiry. If your SSL certificates have expired, it might cause the website slowness, and downtime. To prevent problems like this, you can use Applications Manager's URL Monitor. You can ensure the 24/7 website availability with our URL Monitor, since it acts as a continuous URL monitoring service that keeps constant watch over a specific URL or a web page. It also helps verify the availability of specified addressable standard HTTP and HTTPS URLs. You can use it to easily monitor your website's availability to get instant notifications whenever your website goes down. You can even recheck the website's status to identify and eliminate false positives. And then validate HTTP requests and track website response time along with split ups such as DNS time, connection time, first byte time, and last byte time. Everybody loves a fast website. With improvements in broadband speeds and the advent of super fast websites, user expectations about the website speed have changed. Response time of a website determines the speed of the website. Response time is how long it takes for your web server to connect and send data packets to the browser of an end user. A website without any latency can leave a good impression on the customers and can help lower bounce rate too. Applications Manager's URL Monitor tracks your website's response time along with split ups such as DNS time, last connection time, last byte time, first byte time, and connection time. First byte time is the time it takes for a browser to receive the first byte of response from a web server, meaning that it's a very strong indication of how the website is performing for that user. And finally, we have root cause diagnosis for quicker troubleshooting. Applications Manager also supports root cause diagnosis, which helps you troubleshoot issues and reduce the mean time to resolution. So you can also make content checks to ensure the availability of URLs. So moving on to the UI. So in order to add a monitor, you need to go to New Monitor, Add New Monitor. And here you'll find all the services and monitors related to web server and services here. By clicking on it, you'll be able to see all the web server and services. Click on HTTP URL or URL sequence. URL sequence monitors the sequence of URL, while URL monitor monitors only a specified URL. After clicking on it, give a display name, followed by a URL address. Specify the polling interval and the timeout. Under HTTP configurations, you can also specify the form submission method, whether it's post or get. You can also specify the request parameters if you have any. And then for authentication, you can use the credential. If you have it at hand, you can specify the username and password. Or if you've already specified a credential, you can select it from the credential list. It will, if you have a credential which has already been used in Applications Manager, you can select it from the list. As you can see, I have no credentials. And also you can use the SAML ADFS authentication. If you select this, if you already have used an SAML ADFS authentication method, it will list all the credentials. But if not, you need to add a new SAML ADFS authentication. So here you will need to give another display name for the authentication. And then the redirect URL, followed by the form submission method, whether it's get or post, the custom HTTP headers, and the SSL version of the service provider. You can also check whether you want to redirect the form or not and specify the request binding type and the form name. After that, you proceed to the Active Directory Federation service details. Here, you'll need to give the sign-in URL, the ADFS user credential, the username's identifier, and the password's identifier. After specifying the response binding type and specifying the ACS URL, which is the assertion customer service URL of the service provider, click on Save and you will save the credentials. So after saving the credential, it will list here and you can choose the credential. So, and then you can also specify the error if the response code is greater than 200, if it's lesser than equal to or not equal to, etc. You can also edit this value for according to your convenience. If the monitor detects error, you can retry immediately to verify the error as well if you check this box. After that, specify the user agents if you have any. the custom HTTP headers, and the SSL certification. You can also perform content checks to ensure the availability of the URLs. So here you can just say if you have a word called monitor in your in the specific URL, you can specify it here. And if you want to check whether a forbidden word is present in the URL, you can specify it here as well. For example, Java. And then you can check, do a case-sensitive keyword search. Then click on Add URL Monitor to add the monitor. After adding the monitor, you can go to Monitors. It will immediately start pulling the data. So after you add the monitor, go to Monitors, and under Web Server Services, you'll be able to see the URL monitor here. Click on the HTTP URL, and it will list all the URL monitors that you've added. Click on any one. So here you will get the basic information about the monitor, such as name, health, type, match content, if you've performed a content check, etc. And also the availability for today, a week, and for the month. You get the performance of the website for the last 1 hour, when you will be able to monitor the average response time and the current response time. You also get the response time split here with the DNS time, the average value and the current value, the connection time with the average value, current value, the first byte time and last byte time. You can also specify thresholds here, so that if it goes beyond a certain value, you'll be able to get alerts and notifications immediately. So you can also monitor the page size for the last 1 hour. You get information such as the current page size, the percentage of the page size change, and the previous page size. Again, here also you can specify the threshold and configure alarms. So let's move on to the next part. Proactively identifying and resolving potential user impacting issues through synthetic monitoring. Like I was saying earlier, in today's age of instant gratification, end users expect to be able to enjoy a seamless, issue-free experience on your website. Although monitoring the website availability and the response time gives you a fair idea of whether or not your website is up and running or not, you can't know if your users are able to perform transactions without fail unless you understand the user's experience through the website. This is where you need to use synthetic monitoring techniques. Here are some of the things that it helps us to do. You can analyze the performance from an end user's perspective. So synthetic transaction monitoring involves analyzing the website's performance from an end user's perspective, which can help you identify issues that might otherwise go unnoticed. You can test the performance of the critical user paths on your website by recording these complex workflows using the recorder. So check out the image here. This is the process of going through an e-commerce website. So if you have a login, you log in, you do a product search, you add it to the cart, and then you go to the payment gateway and log out. So this is the basic user path of an e-commerce website. So synthetic monitoring lets you record complex workflows such as this to keep an eye on important transactions taking place on your website. Say, for example, if you have encountered an error in the logout phase of your workflow or during the payment gateway phase of your workflow, synthetic monitoring helps you find out any such errors before the end user's experience. You can also dynamically track the website's availability and performance from an end user's location. One of the main advantages is that you can dynamically track the availability and performance of your website from your user's location using end user monitoring agents. And finally, you can ensure that your website is meeting your service level and business level objectives. So if these SLAs are met and if you verify whether these SLAs are being met or not, it provides a line of sight on your service level agreements. So let us see how Applications Manager's real browser monitoring facilitates synthetic transaction monitoring. So Applications Manager's synthetic transaction monitoring feature, which is also known as a real browser monitor, opens up an actual browser like Firefox from multiple geographical locations and tracks how these elements in your website load from that location, and more specifically, the way users view them. First, it simulates the business critical processes via Selenium based scripting of tests. So every action that we perform while recording, be it hovering, clicking on an element, all of it will be saved in a Selenium based script file. Then it runs checks from real browsers such as Chrome or Firefox. Applications Manager opens up a real browser in which it plays the recorded transaction again to identify if any error occurs. During the playback, data collection takes place and all the performance metrics are then published on the monitor dashboards. It also lets you take screenshots during the playback if there are any errors. And finally, the main advantage of synthetic monitoring, which is that you can test it from different locations, be it enterprise branch or actual locations. To facilitate the monitoring in multiple locations, we make use of end-user monitoring agents. Let us say you are hosting an event in your office and you've created a registration form for the same. All employees need to register for the event, which means employees from all your branch offices should be able to do so without any hassle. To test this critical workflow of filling the form and successfully registering for the event, you can use Applications Manager's real browser monitoring. For that, first you'll need to install EUM agents, which is end-user monitoring agents, in all your branch offices. Then you can record the transaction of filling and registering your form from your main office. The same transaction will also be performed in your branch offices using these EUM agents that will then send the data to Applications Manager. This way, you can check if the workflow functions without any errors in all the desired locations. Applications Managers and user monitoring agents basically provide greater visibility into the user's experience and helps detect potential performance problems with ease. These EUM agents can be installed in multiple branch offices in different cities or in the systems of your end users. All you need is a secure HTTPS connection between the agent and the Applications Manager server. So let me show you how to perform end user monitoring with our real browser monitor. So first you'll need to install the end user monitoring agent. So this is how the end user monitoring agent opens up. It opens up in your web console, and to get the API key, you need to go to settings and under integration with portal, go to REST API. And here you'll get all the API keys for all our agents. Copy the end user monitoring's API key and log in. After logging in, it will be connected to your Applications Manager's server. So here, if you want to add a new monitor, go to Monitor, Add New Monitor, and under Web Server Services, click on the Real Browser Monitor. So here you need to, as we mentioned before, you need to install the EUM agent in your system. And after logging in into your EUM agent, it will be added as an agent in your Applications Manager server. So you need to import Selenium cases with our web transaction recorder, or you can actually generate a HAR file and add it to the real browser monitor. So if you have already a web transaction recorder, which is installed as a Chrome extension, you can open it. Or here you need to specify this host name followed by the port and the API key. Here you need to get the Applications Manager's API key, not the EOM API key, and click Login. You will be able to log in, and here you can record a transaction, or if you have already recorded a transaction, you can open it, and also you can import a Selenium script. So if you want to record a transaction, given URL, example, and start recording. It will open up a browser window, and here you can perform any amount of actions, such as like you can hover, you can click on another link, or you can fill up a form, or you can go to the schedule demo page, fill up a form, download the installation file, etc. After doing all that, all the steps will be saved here. After you've done all the steps that you want to do, click on playback and save. First stop recording and then click playback and save. So it will give you all the details, such as the page load timeout, delay between the requests and stuff, and do a test playback. So apart from this, you can also generate a HAR file, where which is the Selenium test case file. So here you need to go to inspect, and under performance, you start recording. So when you start recording, you can perform all the actions that are necessary. And finally, stop recording. So after you stop recording, you will be able to download the HAR file, which you can then import into the real browser monitor. So here, select a display name such as this. Then you upload the file which you have downloaded from either your web transaction recorder or from the inspect element. After that, specify the page load timeout, the think time, which is the delay between requests in seconds. And you can check if you want to see a screenshot of the image, show the performance metrics, and also if you want to accept untrusted and expired certificates. Specify the polling interval, select the monitor group. So if you, like I said, if you've already logged in on your EOM agent, you can select the agent and click save. If you want to test the credentials, you can do so. So after you've added the monitor, go to monitors and under web server services, you will be able to see it under real browser monitoring. Here you get the performance overview where you can see the availability history and the performance history for the last 6 hours. And if you have a EUM agent, you can also see the details about the EUM agent and the average page load time, transaction time, availability, and health of the page, which has been tested using the EUM agent. You also get the page steps load time by location, the steps which you have recorded as well. By clicking on the EUM agent, you get much more details regarding the page's performance, with details such as the average page load time, the transaction time, the page load time of the steps as well. So if you perform the click step, you get the page load time for the click step and the health and configure, and you can also configure alarms for the same. Which is then, it is also represented in a graphical format for easy understanding. So since you've already checked the box for screenshots, it gives you the screenshot of the website that you've added. So here all the screenshots will be added. So that is it about the synthetic monitoring using real browser monitoring. So let's move on to the synthetic monitoring use cases. Well, so what are some of the use cases where your business would need a synthetic transaction monitor? So first, you can use it to compare the performance of your website to your competitors. With synthetic performance or synthetic transaction monitoring, you can set up benchmark scenarios to see how your applications are performing over time. You can also benchmark your company's performance against top competitors within a certain historical time frame or within a specific geographical region. This approach will help you establish a strategic outlook and preserve the competitive advantage in the marketplace. You can also test new features. So since testing is an important and an early stage of application development, synthetic monitoring provides a set of baselines and thresholds that will pinpoint any obstacles one is likely to face while using the application in real time. So you can also assess the performance of third-party apps. Today's websites increasingly rely on third-party features such as carts, ads, customers' reviews, web analytics, social networking, SEO add-ons, video, and much more to provide an outstanding customer experience. If there's a weak link in the chain, or one or more of these elements are not working properly, it can adversely impact your site. So synthetic transaction monitoring can greatly assist in helping you monitor your third-party applications while also alerting you to potential or real performance degradation and downtime impacts. This helps tremendously in providing a line of sight on your service level agreements in order to hold the third-party vendors accountable. So you can monitor the steps in which you have performed, and you can see the page load time for each of the steps. By monitoring these steps, you can assess the performance of third-party apps. Say, if the transaction time of a certain element is slower than usual, you can deduce that the performance of the third-party app is kind of slow. And also, you can find issues before your customers do. Synthetic direct feedback on performance degradation or availability issues. It will also help your team locate the root cause, engage the right experts, and fix the issues before they impact end users. So we will now move on to our next topic, analyzing real user behavior patterns to gain insight into the front-end performance. So first, what is real user monitoring? Real user monitoring refers to capturing users' interactions with a website in real time. It helps you analyze how your end users perceive your website. So as businesses go digital and global, their websites are accessed from various devices and from multiple geographies. It's important to provide a consistent user experience across all geographies and devices. But in reality, user experience could be impacted by various external factors like network latency, operational hiccups, trouble retrieving requested resources, and slow ISPs. So, what works in one browser may not work in another. This is where Real User Monitor comes in handy. It helps you see why your website is slow in a particular region, identify if you've overlooked any issues with your web page load time, and then find out why a user abandoned a page. All of this information enables you to optimize your website performance. Unlike synthetic monitoring, where you perform the testing before the end user can check out your website, here you will be able to monitor your real users' interaction with your website. To understand why real user monitoring is more essential, we must understand the drawbacks of synthetic transaction monitoring. First one, it does not always align with reality. Synthetic monitoring has one major weakness. It does not align with reality. Due to the fact that the nature of the traffic used for synthetic testing is not organic but artificial and isn't truly representative of a real user's experience at any given time, its outcome and performance are rather predictable. Because synthetic monitoring uses simulated actions, it does not predict the actions of real-life customers. Time consuming for incident resolution. When you receive complaints from end users in real time, synthetic monitoring data does not tell you about what the end user was actually doing or experiencing. You would have to painstakingly analyze performance for every business critical transaction and create scripts for synthetic testing in order to uncover possible issues, which can be time consuming. Finally, narrow view of performance. Synthetic monitoring can't match the rich diversity and the performance variables that exist in the real world. Because you are not monitoring actual users, you aren't really getting any data on how your product is used in the real world. All you have is simply a narrow view of the application's performance. So, how does Real User Monitor work in Applications Manager? To facilitate the data collection and reporting, the Real User Monitoring agent is deployed in the server where the application is hosted. Knowing that a small JavaScript snippet generated by Applications Manager is to be placed in the header or footer part of the HTML code of the web application that you want to track. Upon loading, the JavaScript snippet acts as the core that collects the performance data and constantly transmits it to the RUM agent. The RUM agent communicates this between the JS code and the Applications Manager's web client data, which depicts the captured data. Real User Monitoring and Applications Manager. So what and how does it benefit you? It helps you analyze the front-end performance across several geographies. So you can proactively analyze how the front-end performance of websites varies across different geographies, internet service providers, browsers, and devices to ensure a hassle-free digital experience. Measure the end-user satisfaction and isolate poor-performing web transactions. You can become aware of user satisfaction levels using AppDex score and isolate web transactions that contribute to poor user experience of the applications. Gain a comprehensive insight into the domain resources and user sessions. Identify errors instantly and analyze and compare the impact of any new changes. So, Real User Monitoring and Applications Manager also allows you to identify JavaScript errors, which helps you prevent users from reporting a service error and also analyze the impact of any new changes made in the site and how it has affected the user experience. So let's see how it looks in the UI. So at first you need to install the RUM agent in your server where the web applications is being hosted. After you install it and follow the steps, you need to you need to give the API key of your applications manager server. And after that, it will be added or it will be appended to your existing applications manager's server. So unlike the real end user monitoring agent, you do not have a web console for a real user monitoring agent. You will just have to host it in your web server. That's it. So when you add a new monitor for the real user monitor, you will be able to get the script, the JavaScript, which needs to be added to your web applications file. So before adding the real user monitor, you need to get the JavaScript and add it to your web applications file, either at the top or at the bottom. And after adding it and making it live, you need to specify the display name for the monitor to be added, specify the website's URL, and the aptX threshold. Whichever you feel is the respectable threshold for your application, specify it here. Select the application framework type, whether it's a traditional or a single page application. And then check the track Ajax calls to monitor the performance of your Ajax calls. In case of a traditional web application, Ajax calls would consume the page views. You can also track cross-domain Ajax calls to monitor the performance of Ajax calls to domains other than your parent domain, which is you can monitor the external domains Ajax calls. And you can also add which domains that you want to exclude. Under single page applications, you can only monitor and track the cross-domain Ajax calls. For traditional, you can also monitor your internal Ajax calls as well. So after that, you can specify the domains that you want to exclude for cross-domain Ajax calls, then the user agents to exclude, and you can also choose to track the resource performance and monitor the availability of your application in the idle state. So since you've already associated an RUM agent or how many ever RUM agent you have in your testing locations, you can add it to the monitor and click on Add Monitor. After adding the monitor, go to Monitors. Click on Real User Monitor. It displays the monitor. This is the script I was talking about. So you get the script here. You need to copy and paste it in your applications code. So here you'll get the summary of your RUM monitor, where you can see the overview of your aptX scores, response time, page views, error counts, the world view, response times, page views, throughput, etc. You can monitor the geographical data. Here you get the world view according to this aptX score. And then you get the average response time, world view, page views, error counts. This helps you get a lot of information at a glance if you have monitored it across different geographical locations. And it also helps you recognize any slowness in the website or application's performance. And you can also monitor the page views it gets and the error counts it encounters. Apart from the geographical data and graphical format, you also get a summary format where you can view all the details thoroughly and extensively in a tabular format. You can also monitor the ISP details. But in order to monitor the ISP details, you need to have an API that installed in your system. So here you can monitor the response time by the ISP, that is the internet service provider, which is represented in a graphical format. So if you have different internet service providers, it gives you a lot of information at a glance. And also you have a summary in tabular column where you get granular information regarding the average response time, the total counts, which was by which you get the number of times the application was accessed through a particular internet service provider and the throughput of the same. Under browser, you get the response time by browser, the browser usage split up, which is represented in the graphical format at the top. And in the summary part, you get details such as average response time, total count, and the throughput. Total count is the number of time the application was accessed through a particular browser. By clicking on the browser, you get extensive details about that particular browser, where you get the response time in a graphical format, which is represented across a particular time. And also you get the same for throughput as well. You also get the version details about the browser's version, response time, count, and throughput. So moving on to device tab, you'll get the details about the device which was used to access that application. So the response time by device and the device usage split up is given here. You also get additional information in devices such as the top viewport, the connection time, the device memory, etc. And under device summary, if it was since it was accessed through a Windows device, you get information about the response time, the total count, and the throughput. By clicking on the device, you get much more granular information such as the response time, and which is represented in a graphical format, and the throughput, which is also represented in a graphical format. And under web pages, you'll be able to monitor the web transactions in the web pages that the real user has performed. So these are the transactions along with their average response time, the total count, throughput, and the average page size of the same. By clicking on the transactions, you'll be able to get the graphical format and the other details in detail. So moving on to user sessions. Here you need to add, if you want to monitor the user sessions and track them, you need to add it using a custom API. For the you get details such as total users, total sessions, average viewing time, and the average pages navigated. The user sessions is represented in a tabular format where you get extensive details such as the start time, the user ID, whether the user session is expired or is still ongoing, and you get username, the browser name, the device name, country, pages navigated, and viewing time. It is basically a summary of or a collection of summary of the previous tabular columns of the user session. So here you'll be able to monitor the individual user sessions of each user. By clicking on it, you can also see the session details, like the transaction that they've performed, the response time, the redirection time, DNS time, the connection time, server time, first byte time, document download time, rendering time, and document rendering time. So these are all available under user sessions. And under resources, you get details about the first-party resources, the third-party resources, and the CDN resources that are used in your web application. So it gives you details such as the resource size, the response time, and the total count for all the resources. This is where you can monitor whether a third-party resource is performing properly or not. You can also track the AJAX calls, which are given here. Here, the transactions are sorted by either average response time, the total count, throughput, average resource size, and the errors for each transaction if it has thrown an error. So by clicking on the transaction, you'll be able to get the underlying data where you can see the response time and throughput in graphical format along with the applic score, response time, and page views for each of the transaction. And for JavaScript errors, you can see how many errors have the users encountered, the pages where the errors were encountered, the files and the users, how many users have encountered that errors. So you also get a errors versus an affected users graph. Here, you can monitor how many users were actually affected by that particular error. And also you get details about the JavaScript errors, which are sorted according to the error, then according to the type, the file in which the error showed up, the page in which the error showed up, the browser through which the error was accessed, and the affected user. So the user sessions is showing up here, and the domain also is shown. So you can see how the number of times the error was encountered here. So now that we've understood both the real user monitoring and synthetic monitoring, let me tell you how they complement each other and provide great benefits when employed for your website. So first one is correlating business with performance. Synthetic monitoring can provide the performance data that will enable you to pinpoint problems with page load times and or network bottlenecks. However, if you want to analyze exactly how the web performance impacts the business revenue, then you need more than just synthetic performance metrics. Since real user monitoring metrics is generated through real user traffic, it provides an essential insight into real business metrics such as conversion rates, which can then be correlated with the continuous performance metrics collected from synthetic testing. Identify problems before the users arrive. No matter where the applications are hosted, problems are bound to occur. Synthetic monitoring is the most effective solution to identify a configuration problem caused by an off-hours maintenance change so that it can be fixed before the users begin using your application service in the early morning hours. On the other hand, RUM or Real User Monitor would be the most helpful tool to measure the application responsiveness for each and every live user during the peak hours. Troubleshooting outages. Combining synthetic and RUM data can make troubleshooting quicker and easier. When the synthetic tests fail or trigger a false alert or trigger an alert, the data gathered from the real user monitor will show you the real-time impact on the end user experience. Similarly, if real user monitoring data reveals a performance anomaly, then you can use the synthetic testing to replicate the issue by exercising the same transaction across a number of ISPs and geographical locations. Collecting data in this way allows you to triangulate from various vantage points to identify the root cause that may lie in the data path between the end users and your application service. Now let's proceed to the last topic of today's session, enhance web page performance to safeguard your brand reputation. So what is a web page analyzer and why would you need it? Synthetic transaction monitoring and real user monitoring gives you insight into website performance from an end user's perspective. So Applications Manager's web page analyzer monitoring service enables you to perform web page analysis, keep track of your web pages, and optimize the web page performance using page speed rules and suggestions. It can help you identify what exactly is slowing your websites down. Page Speeds Insights is an online tool which helps in identifying the performance best practices on any given website, providing suggestions on a web page's optimization and suggests overall ideas of how to make the web page faster. So, what is a web page analyzer in a crux? So, Applications Manager's web page analyzer tracks and provides insight into various key metrics to help you identify and effectively manage your web pages. During each poll, Applications Manager loads the web page in the Firefox browser in a cache-less state and captures the real-time data of various performance metrics of the web page. So with the help of a web page analyzer, you get the response time and the domain summary, the page speed scores and suggestions, like I mentioned before. You also get a request tracking with waterfall chart, which is when a web page renders, it might have various components that constitute a page. So the web page analyzer tracks all the transactions that take place when the components load. So this waterfall chart gives you a visual representation of critical metrics related to each transaction, which helps you understand the component that is loading slowly. This way you can prevent website downtime and slowness and help the website to perform optimally. So let's see the UI to understand the web page analyzer a little better. To add a monitor or add the real user monitor, go to real user monitor. Under web page, web server and services. Here you have the web page analyzer. Specify the display name, the website URL, the page load timeout, the wait after load, which is the wait time after loading, the HTTP method, whether it's get or post. If you select post, you need to specify the page load as payload as well. So then specify the custom HTTP headers, the username and password for the specific page if the authentication is required. If not, you can leave it as blank. Then you need to enter the domains that you want to block. So if you want to check the availability or response for your web page using content check here. You can add the content that you want to check, whether it should contain or should not contain. You can also do a case-sensitive keyword search as well for the content check. If you want to enable a SSL TLS certificate monitoring, you can do so as well. Or if you want to monitor the expiry of certificate, you can do that here. You can either do that in a web page analyzers monitor, or you can add a separate SSL certificate monitoring monitor as well. So here you need to specify the domain, the port, and the protocol for the SSL certificate. If you need a proxy to connect to the domain, check this box. Or if you need to ignore the certificate name mismatch error, you can check this box as well. Specify the timeout, test the credential, and add the monitor. After adding the monitor, go to monitors. And under web server services, you will have the the web page analyzer. By clicking on the monitor type, you get the overview of the web page analyzer, where you get the response time summary. In addition to the first byte time, last byte time, connection time, and DNS time, which you get in URL monitor, you also get the start render time, the document complete time, and page load time in web page analyzer. So it's an extensive URL monitoring, if you can say so. So you also get the domain summary, which is represented in a tabular format, where you get the details such as IP address, the domain name, the number of requests, size, average response time, average throughput, health, and if you want to configure alarms, you can do so for each of the domains. Under network log, you can monitor the network details, such as the requests, which are given according to the resource name, the status code of each resource, the size in KB, the content type. If you want to filter the content type by specific types, such as HTML, you can do that as well. And this is the waterfall chart, which we were talking about earlier. Here, the waterfall chart, which is specified here, gives you details about how much time a specific resource or a transaction is taking up. So you get the total time here. You get the start time, redirection time, domain lookup time, connection time of each of the resources here. It gives you a comprehensive look at a single glance. If you've checked the monitor SSL certificate You can get the details about the SSL certificate here. Here you can monitor the issue to and by details and also the validity of the same. You can add an alarm for the expiry of the certificate so that you don't look helpless when the certificate expires. You also get details about the resources such as the request summary and the screenshots of the same. Here you can monitor the number of requests, the size of each request, and the health as well. And finally, you get this page speed insights where you get the page speed score, and it gives you suggestion on which area to improve your page speed score. So here, for example, so avoid CSS import, it gives you 100 score, so your grade is A. But under defer parsing of JavaScript, you only have a score of 10, which is a grade B. So it gives you the names of all the resources or the sections where you need to modify to improve the score of this particular section. So this is it about the web page analyzer. Moving on, we also have a brand reputation monitor, which helps you prevent your website from being blacklisted. It helps you get insights about whether it was identified as a suspected malware, phishing, deceptive, or an unwanted software. You can also become notified if any of your pages are being marked unsafe. So to add a brand reputation monitor, you can go to the new monitor, add new monitor. And finally, under web server and services, you specify the display name and the web page URL. After checking the connectivity, you can add the monitor. Under brand reputation monitor, you get basic details about the brand's reputation, or like I said, you'll be able to monitor if it's marked unsafe or not, so that it doesn't taint your brand's reputation. So you get the brand's reputation's malware count, where you'll be able to monitor whether it was marked as a malware or a phishing or deceptive or an unwanted software. So you also get the details. If it was suspected as a malware, it will be marked as unsafe. And since it wasn't detected as a malware, it's marked as safe. So this helps you protect your brand's reputation. Last week, we talked about the APM Insight, which is a real-time transaction level tool. Today, we talked about the transaction level monitoring from the front end. So in part one, we saw how you can monitor individual URLs for better user experience. You also saw how you can analyze the issues faced in critical workflows with the help of synthetic monitoring as well. And also we saw how you can leverage synthetic transaction monitoring to go beyond app-only view. We also saw how you can understand real-time user experiences using a real user monitor, and how you can optimize web pages with the help of a web page analyzer and a brand reputation monitor. Thank you all for staying till the end of the session.